Welcome to Nasdaq TradeTalks, where we meet with the top thought leaders and strategists in emerging technologies, digital assets, the regulatory landscape, and capital markets. I'm your host, Jill Malandrino, and joining me on the desk at the Nasdaq market site is Amit Shah, co-founder and CEO of Instalily, and Jacob Laurvigen. He's co-founder and CEO of Neurologics, and we're here to discuss why AI is about to make all of us software developers and what investors should look for when determining what to invest in. It is great to have the both of you with us. Welcome to Market Site, welcome to Trade Talks. Amit, let's kick it off with you. You've held executive positions at public companies, and now you're leading an AI company. Tell us about Instalily, what it does, who it serves, and what is your focus there?
Sure, it's a great question. First of all, I'm having a lot of fun building an AI company in New York. And I think what motivated me is this shift, I would say every 10 years or so, and certainly we had a shift from systems of computation to systems of intelligence and reasoning. And that really inspired me to really think about what are the core problems that enterprises face right now. And that is, how do you really achieve productivity gains or cost savings? And we really thought about where is the frontier space in AI moving to that can meet the needs of enterprises in this manner. So we ended up working in what we call sort of the very frontier space of AI agents. And a simple way to understand AI agents is think of them as human-level productivity workers that actually work alongside human beings. And you can have a full team of AI agents that help them do their work better, faster, and more thoughtfully. So we don't think about replacing human beings. We think about empowering them by using these AI agents. So that's been our focus. And we think that ultimately, for enterprises to unlock productivity gains or cost savings, it is going to come from this very practical application of AI on a day-to-day basis versus all the hype that we sometimes hear, right, and which is not reflective of the real enterprise needs.
Right, well, this week you could work on more creative, more research-intensive projects because you'll have the time to do so. Tell us about Neurologics, Jacob, and who it serves.
Yeah, thank you for having us on the show. This is the first time we'll be talking about Neurologics publicly, and essentially it's purpose-driven AI, and specifically within generative software. So what we have built over the past 2 years is a disciplinary metrics, a framework that enables AIs to build software based on natural language prompts. This is to enable creators. So creators are all of us coming up with an idea for our software, either for a company, for a big enterprise, or for your hobbies, or whatever it might be. So if you can articulate the idea, the AI, which we have called Henrik, can build the full application. That goes for you could say, a simple application for your football team, for, you could say, tracking your scores and teams and whatnot, to a big enterprise ERP or CRM system.
Yeah. What differentiates two different types of generative AI? Is it specific to the industry you're in, or specific needs that a client has, or a specific problem that you're looking to solve?
I think to what Amit says, I think we've kind of now made general AI so good. Talked about this earlier. That kind of, you could say, being able to communicate with an AI or derive information from an AI is one thing. The other thing is a purpose-driven AI. So what do we want it to do? And that obviously requires a lot more expertise, insight. If it's like, if you could say, assisting with paralegal work, building software as we do, or as Amit just explained before. So purpose-driven AI is kind of the next level. And if you look into the kind of how the markets perceive AI, I think that's where the markets needs to be patient, because that's kind of the next level. That is actually, you could say, accelerating what we can do as humans with an idea or as a creative, making us better, making us able to do things we couldn't do before, rather than just kind of being amazed about having a conversation with an AI.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Like, I'm in school now, and the academic work that I do, I feel like my research has gotten better because I know where the jump off is. I know where I need to go, and then I can spend time on extrapolating and reading between the lines. And it has changed the way that I do research. What's the addressable market size? Or again, is it specific to the purpose?
I think the addressable market size, and certainly we are focused on B2B enterprises because that's where we think there is a great value unlock to be had. We think it's massive. We think it's multi-trillion-dollar opportunity. And we think we have just gotten started. If you think about the evolution of mobile phones, you know, I joke sometimes that we are in the Nokia moment, and I love that company. Yeah. All of us had an experience of that. But if you think about from that to the iPhone, and then a company like Uber coming, right, which required sort of bandwidth on both the sides, a smartphone, knowing the location, etc. So we are just starting off right now with this sort of very simple applications in generative AI. But if you think about 95% of human productivity comes from taking actions. So now what evolution we are going to see is to move from this idea of just having conversations to really empowering AI to take actions. I'll give you a simple example. One of our big clients that we are very privileged to work with is SRS Distribution, that was just acquired by Home Depot. And we have built a set of agents for their territory managers who are before this time spending up to 3 hours in the morning just going through the different dashboards to determine which customers to focus on, which contractors to help today, who to call, what sales strategies do I need to really close that sale. And so now when they walk in at 9 o'clock in the morning, a team of AI agents has already done this all for them. So they start off with a huge productivity leap compared to the previous day.
Right.
So we think that, like you were talking about your research over time, we think that the same way we have Excel or a laptop, in the future, all human workers will have either AI agents or team of AI agents really helping them discern signal from noise, right, and what to focus on.
It feels as if AI is helping the human organize their brain or their tasks more efficiently and more logically in a way that could be just so overwhelming and hard to prioritize tasks sometimes.
Yeah, but that's where I think we will be focused on the outcome.
Right.
So what do we want to do with it? So obviously, again, now if you use, you can say the general AIs, you will have to figure out how to use it or how to make a purpose of it or how, again, as soon as they kind of get organized and there's built a disciplinary metrics around the, you could say the purpose, so you can trust it, whether it's for legal or driving a car, or then that's when it becomes an extension of what you can do. But you will still have the, you could say, you will still want the same things. Now you can just do it faster, or you can do things that you
more
couldn't do before.
logically.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think it makes you more creative and allows you to work on more complex tasks. I see it myself. Like I do it every day, and I find it fascinating. But from the enterprise perspective, Amit, do you feel as if there's this rush to bring a product to market or to implement it within enterprise and perhaps not weighing out the risk? How are you advising companies in terms of best implementation strategies and sustainable governance?
Yeah, and I think a lot of my own sort of experience guides me. You know, I'm a public company board member. I've done a lot of sort of governance work. Also built out a community called AI Trailblazers, where we are having these conversations with the top level, C-level executives. And I think it follows very simple sort of principles, first principles, if you will, in the sense that no matter what the technology, it still has to meet the basic enterprise needs of governance, traceability, auditability. And so in our conversations, what we are saying is that AI is not going to come and disrupt those things, because that's not the pathway to adoption. We think by embracing those things, and that's what we think differentiates our agents in the marketplace, is that we have built that from grounds up. So the InfoSec team, for example, feels very comfortable with how we are moving the data, how we are saving every conversation between the agents, the same way you would expect the conversations on a chat surface to be saved between humans.
Right.
So I think it is actually thinking of these agents as equal citizens and holding them to the same outcomes that we hold a human employee to.
Right, and I think that's important. That sometimes at enterprises you could be stuck in these silos, right? And if you're able to leverage some of these AI resources or work together with the CISO and the InfoSec team, now you're able to look across the board and assess from the top down what risks are, what's working. You don't want to just spend money for the sake of.
No,
but,
exactly. And it's a focus on kind of, instead of saying we want to use AI because that's interesting, saying what do we want to achieve and how can we use AI to achieve it, and how do we enable the person, again, coming back to being creative, you could say the person who drives the outcome, or you could say defines the outcome, how can we enable that individual to kind of achieve as much as possible without having to kind of, you could say, without having any roadblocks. And making giving them the ability to think of all the things that they need to think about, whether it's being security, compliance, etc., so they can continue down the path they want.
Yeah, and then you also have to have that conversation with the board, and you being on the board, as the CISO, you need to be able to communicate that, not only to your CFO or other people who are responsible for the risk management part of it, but being able to explain what, I guess, the intangible ROI of what that is, right? Because it's hard to value at this point, and then you also have competing priorities with the cyber team and with other teams. So being able to effectively communicate that and show what the return could look like, it's still very new.
And I also feel like the flip side of that is actually we find that the surface area with agents and AI sometimes can be better controlled as well. So it's not just that you are setting yourselves up for risk, but actually this could be a great risk mitigation strategy as well, because you have perfect observability of what's going on, right? Whereas if you have human teams, sometimes that observation can be fragmented, can be difficult to then put together around sequence of events, for example. So we actually think that this provides the CISOs, the executive teams, with a greater level of confidence if implemented with the right partner like us in doing that outcome. And then the second thing I would also say is that compared to last year when we started having the initial conversations, I think the adopters have become very sophisticated as well. And they have started discerning out sort of, hey, what is a real enterprise level application versus just a skunkworks project that certain teams or people are doing to just become more productive. And so now I think there's a great renaissance going on in the boardrooms, in the C-suite, asking the deeper question that, hey, if our competitors actually adopt AI faster than us, we are going to lose the competitive moat. So let's come up with those principles and those sandboxes and those governance outcomes, but let's get going. And those level of conversations for us have just tremendously accelerated.
Yeah, it's so fascinating to watch this happen in real time.
Yeah.
So ChatGPT or generative AI became part of the consumer vernacular in November 2022. Why? AI is nothing new. Machine learning is nothing new. Why do you think that was the catalyst to spur this on? Is it because everyone can understand generative AI to a certain extent?
Yeah, because that enables, you could say, other people like us, you could say, to take the outcome of, you could say, capable AI and implement it into, you could say, into solutions. We can't all be sitting and, you could say, doing all the initial training. So just like you could say, the invention of the standard for a diesel engine, once it's invented, then you can apply that power to trains, airplanes, etc., and you could say achieve something new. I mean, a plane don't fly because it, you could say, wasn't invented because we invented the engine, but the engine was necessary for a plane to get into the air. But there's so much more that goes into that. So it enables, you could say, the next industrial revolution.
And it's going to happen so much quicker. Was it Moore's Law, where the iterations of technology exponentially increase? I feel like with using ChatGPT, with generative AI in general, as far as a user experience, and again, there's hallucinations, it's not an absolutely perfect outcome, but it's something that we're familiar with. It almost looks like an instant message box.
Yeah.
We're used to using that type of interface, and I feel like that helped with the adoption as well. If you were to come 5 years ago and be like, Jill, here's an ML application, I wouldn't even know what that means or looks like. But it's comfortable in a way.
And I think what the genius of both ChatGPT and the moment we are in, it transformed from AI being a story to being the story of our times, because it made accessible the systems of intelligence. So if you think about 20 years ago, we were using computer to send an email. Now we are at a point that it can compose the email, but where we are headed to is the idea that you need the email because you are trying to, let's say, schedule a meeting. But two agents should be able to work on your behalf and on the other person's behalf to come up with that outcome. So that's what wows us as human beings, that we finally have sidekicks, if you will, who really understand the context, who understand sort of the constraints and the objective that it wants to do, and then go out and do it on our behalf while keeping us in the loop. So I think that, for me, the wow moment is to think about that there is so much productivity that is lost right now within enterprises, because people have to learn machine learning, or they have to learn SQL programming, or they have to wait for 3 dashboards to come together. And now what we are going to finally see is that the human worker is unleashed, finally. And it's not really what quality of software you have, or what quality of training you have, but really what kind of systems of intelligence surround you.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be great not to have multiple platforms where you're entering the same information into different, customer service applications, or multiple calendars, whether it's your personal calendar, work calendar, and trying to. I mean, it's simple. You don't think about these things till the technology exists, because now it works, and it's just fascinating to me. Look at the industries that it literally changed overnight. I mean, the search model has.
Overnight change.
Overnight.
Yeah, it would be hard to imagine anybody, you could say, any customer-facing application you could say, launch that software today and say, no, we're going to skip AI, but it's not going to be a part of it. I mean, not going to happen.
I think we are also going to move from this idea of software as an intermediate step to getting things done, to almost this idea of humanware, where we are managing and directing systems to actually start making 10x outcomes for us. And I think that is the kind of momentum that we see, not just with large language models, but even the enterprise systems internally of how the data is aggregated, labeled. So I just think, to your point, this acceleration is about to get very logarithmic.
Our conversation could look very different a year or two from now.
I would say 2 weeks from now. 2 weeks from now.
But and even just, again, this is from the layperson, how these generative AI applications have changed in just almost 2 years at this point, but I mean, even month to month, week to week.
It's a big change.
It's a really big change. I mean, something as, again, this is very elementary, but rather than asking the question, now I'm telling them what I want, and the results are very, very different.
I think it has one other implication that we were just talking right before this segment. The kind of human talent required to build these systems. So we chose to build the company here in New York City, very proud to say we are made in New York. But we hired what I call AI natives, so people who graduated last year or this year from top engineering programs, and really brought them together, because I think the rate of change is so fast. And AI right now has this interesting juxtaposition of being both science and engineering, in the sense that knowledge is being created every day. And at a faster and faster pace, and then engineers want to build on top of that. But you have to be very, very fluent and adaptable to this outcome, because I tell people that the new coding language is not C++ or Java, it's English language. And certainly in the future it will be different languages, but as you are building, it's just expressing yourself, directing it in the language that you are familiar with.
Is it only, not only English, but the advances that we're seeing with English here in the US, is that pretty uniform throughout the world with, with people have the skill set and ability to develop this? When we think about large language models, is it specific to English, or?
I think that's because there's so much English written.
Right. But can you get the same thing in Spanish or Italian, or?
Then you would have to do kind of the translation and do a retraining, you could say, to make it just as good at
so even a bigger addressable market.
Exactly.
Huge addressable. I think we are in day 0 of the addressability outcome, because I'll give you another example. We work with a team at Partstown, which is the largest restaurant equipment repair platform, if you will. They have the parts. And what we find is that there are not just enough technical workers 24/7 who can provide that sales and service support in any language possible. So by employing this, you're not just saying that, hey, I'm going to improve my productivity, but you're essentially unlocking things that were unlockable before, that were locked up before, because you did not have someone who spoke Spanish when someone called from a shop at 8 o'clock in the night, but now you do. So I think the way I almost look at it is that language itself is expressing an intent, wanting to get to an outcome, and I think those worlds are merging now faster and faster.
Back to the humanware.
Back to the humanware.
All right, gentlemen, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.